Hey, remember that female Absolutian? Tsuburaya sure doesn't. It's Halloween time, so I'm dressed as my favorite clown. Jugless Juggler. I am tired of female villains with dominatrix coding in tokusatsu. We get a lot of it in Toku and in Ultraman, and given how few female characters we even get in normal Toku, I'm talking about non-human characters specifically, I feel like we filled our quota for the time being of women with whips who use sexuality as a weapon. So when it comes to the unnamed silhouette-only female Absolutian about whom we know nothing, I wanted to maybe start a conversation about what the writers could do with her that is not that. Not all these options are even what I would write for her. I'm talking about the archetypes I'm afraid she'll fall into and some alternate possibilities for her character to make her fun and engaging to watch without the traits we usually see in female villains. Basically, I'm asking, if she's not a femme fatale, what could the female Absolutian be? We do not have a name for this character or even know her place in the story, or even if she's been dropped entirely and will never appear in anything ever. But also, I don't want to call her the girl one for the whole video. I'll take the liberty of giving her a placeholder name that fits with the naming scheme of Titan, Diablo, and Tartarus. I am going to be calling the female Absolutian Hecate. I'm making a positive and negative pile. The positives are traits that she needs to fit in as an Absolutian character, and the negatives are traits that she should not have to avoid the dominatrix trap. Ready? Disclaimer here. I am not trying to say that these traits should not be used in general, because that's full of some kind of big misogyny there. We already have a lot of female characters whose stories are already about these things, and it feels like that's the only kind of story that we're getting for them. So I would like to have more types of stories. I just wanted to give that disclaimer. Negative pile. Don't give her a whip. I know it's not actually important to her story or characterization, but so many of the dominatrix-coded villains in Toku have whips. Even if they do end up making her that, if she doesn't have the whip, I'll already be more comfortable. No love interest. No romantic anything whatsoever. Hecate can't fall in love with an ultra she fights. She cannot have a crush on an existing Absolutian. Hecate cannot use her sexuality as a weapon, whether that's for intimidation or trying to coerce someone into doing something by using her womanly wiles. Just no wiles allowed, please. Tying into that one, all Absolutians have some form of pride, hubris, vanity, etc. That's just the Absolutian flaw. Hecate's cannot be preening about her beauty or how many hearts she has broken. None of that. Tartarus is already the pretty one. He's the pretty one. We already have that base covered. We are good. We are fine. We don't need another one to do that, okay? Good? Good. I prefer she not die immediately after she appears, so it would be nice. Positive things I think she absolutely should have. She should have abs. Every Absolutian should have abs. It's in the name Absolutian. Please let her have abs. She should, like all Absolutians, have some sort of fatal flaw centered around pride. That could come in several forms. It could be race supremacy, like Tartarus. It could be being the best at a certain skill set, like Diablo or Titan. She should also have a unique superpower or skill. For instance, Absolute Diablo can change his form into something not recognizable as Absolutian. He also has one-ups, though we don't really know if that's a Diablo thing or an every Absolutian has one-ups thing, so who knows? Tartarus has portal magic and Titan has good at swords. He doesn't have pointy villain feet. I'm sure he has something. Before I get into some possibilities, I want to quickly just address another common Toku girl archetype that exists, but I don't think is likely for Absolute Hecate. I don't think they'll make her a childlike kawaii girly girl. I know it happens a lot for women in Toku and Ultra specifically, but we don't really see it much for the villains. We see it a little bit in Regulus's villain. I know she showed up in earlier media than that, but that's the one that is legally available, so that's the one that I'm referring to. With how threatening the three pre-existing Absolutians are, having the fourth and possibly final named Absolutian be immature or kid-ish, it would not only be really weird tonally, but it would undercut the authority and gravitas that the existing Absolutians have. So I'll be working under the assumption that the writers are not doing that. So what can one do with Hecate? Here's some possibilities that I think would be conducive to interesting storytelling. Option A, make her a scientist. It would easily explain why we haven't seen Hecate up to this point. She's been doing behind-the-scenes science work this whole time. They could make Hecate be the one who discovered the planet was unstable, or heck, even make her one of those responsible for destabilizing it. It would give her an immediate and deeply grounded hubris, as well as giving her a skill set that isn't already covered by the other three Absolutians. This would make Hecate a non-combatant or non-combat focused, but if she did fight, she could do so with cool gadgets and technology. She could be a narrative foil for Hikari and Sora, but also to the parallel isotope of Tregear. This would be ideal if their plan is to have a Tregear redemption arc, as this would give him a science specialist to match wits with on his own terms. Option B, Hecate is some sort of special ops worker like Titan, some sort of spy or undercover agent. This would give the writers a lot of freedom to play. The most obvious ploy is having her pretend to defect to the Ultras for the purposes of infiltrating them and destroying them from the inside. For instance, she could try to recapture Yulian, which would be annoying narratively, but it would make sense. Or she could go after Ultra Mother and Father. She could try and assassinate one of them. This could also give Hecate an internal conflict if the writers wanted to go there, showing how differently the Ultras treat her than the Absolutians did. Now, this does put us at a fairly high risk of Hecate actually converting and then dying dramatically to help the Ultras, which would be annoying. Option C. Make Hecate a combatant who fights the Ultras because she legitimately thinks she's doing the right thing. The Absolutians we already have fight because they believe being the ultimate life form means they can take whatever they want by force, but maybe Hecate can say that the Ultras aren't worthy to stand as beacons of light to the universe because they're imperfect people. That was a really long sentence. Why did I write it like that? Maybe she sees it as purging the universe of what she considers to be false or imperfect saviors, clearing the way for the ultimate life forms to control the universe in permanent and complete peace. Whether or not the other Absolutians are actually working towards that goal isn't really relevant, so long as Hecate believes that that's what they're doing. It would be fun and interesting to see an Absolutian with a perverted sense of justice. We've seen this in Ultra antagonists before, and we've already seen that pop up with Tartarus believing he deserves ultimate power. This would also be a step further into would probably be a good guy if she had better friends territory, which the writers could use or not as they saw fit, and could be good or bad depending on how it's handled. Option D. She is some form of priestess or liaison for the Absolutian Lord that Tartarus has occasionally mentioned. We know basically nothing about who or what this Lord is. Whether that's a deity, the true military leader of the planet, a literal monarch, a manifestation of the kingdom itself, we have no idea. But having Hecate be essentially the mouthpiece of that lord, carrying new assignments to Tartarus and his underlings, that would give her easy narrative significance, as well as elaborating on the mystery of what the Absolutian Lord even is. The thing about this concept is, it leaves her character almost entirely open to being explored. There's a lot to play with. This does also mean they could just leave her whole character at that and make her less of a person and more of a plot convenience. But you could also do some really fun stuff with her, like giving her contempt for those she's delivering the messages to, or being uncomfortable with the orders she's asked to give. I've also heard the theory, and even posited it myself, that she could secretly be the Lord that Tartarus keeps referring to. So I looked back through UGF3. I actually can't find Tartarus using he or him to refer to his lord, so maybe they're going in that direction. I think it's deeply unlikely. Tsuburaya has never done anything like that. Lord is inherently a male title. They don't refer to this character as highness or something that is gender neutral that they could bait and switch us with, but maybe they will, who knows. She might be some form of royalty, the parallel to either Mother of Ultra or Princess Yulian. Also, the Absolutians have no medic. It would make sense for Tsuburaya to make the girl one also the medic one, because that's really common. Z for funsies. Make her the mom friend but evil. Have Hecate be just very done with the internal power squabbling and the arguments about honor. She would be like an exasperated evil Zafi, where she's tired of being surrounded by idiots and infighting, and she just wants this takeover plan finished. Her pride would be in thinking she's better than the others because she doesn't engage with the petty squabbles that Titan and Diablo get into. She believes she's above being hot-headed or even expressing emotions in general, like a Shockwave type of character. Again, we know so little about where they're taking the Ultra Galaxy fight storyline that they could really do just about anything with whatever Hecate's real name is. But there's a lot they can do without diminishing her to the girl one, and I guess that's all I'm really asking for. That this character, this female Absolutian, gets a chance to be just that, a character, not defined by being the evil girl and all the other tropes and unfortunate archetypes that come with that. Femininity in Toku and in Ultraman is important and valuable. But if the writers only ever use that in stories to have dominatrix female villains, that's not exploring or defining a female character. I'd love to see more female Ultras at some point, maybe having a woman secondary Ultra, but Before that, I'd like to see more solid female characters in other places. We've gotten some truly incredible human women in Ultra recently, and if we can get that kind of writing in our female villains too, I think we'd be well on our way to that kind of future. But until then, I don't know, maybe get the Dogengers lady in there. I think she'd do something fun. If she's not a femme fatale, what could that... Basically, I want to ask the question, if she's not a femme fatale, why would you fall on the floor? If she's given a chance to be good, they will probably kill her. I keep dropping things. I'm gonna get my FB cider! Cause it's a sculptor, baby! I can never tell if apple cider's gone bad or if it's just worse than I remember it being. She cannot have a crush on an existing Absolutian. I will hear an argument for her falling for a weird third party because that's out there enough. I think it would be funny. I think it'd be really funny if she got like a crush on Andromelos or something like that, because he strikes me as very not interested in anything like that whatsoever. I don't think he knows what wives are.